Hello, good evening, and welcome to Joy News Prime with me, Samuel Kojo Brace. Coming up in this bulletin, study by the University of Ghana Department of Communication Studies details extensive abuse of journalists in Ghana in the media landscape captured by politicians. We've got details of the state of the Ghanaian media report. Now, also in this bulletin, opposition NDC demands the Council of State reconsiders its advice to the President on the appointment of Dr. Peter Piahene and Salima Ahmed to the Electoral Commission to erase any perception of complicity in the appointment. We have details of the petition to the Council of State, and we'll tell you why the NDC says the appointees are unfit for the job. Also in this bulletin, the Fisheries and Aquaculture Development Ministry has begun a pilot of the electronic monitoring system in industrial vessels operating in Ghana's exclusive economic zones.
The cameras of EMS record videos 24 hours a day and will record, among others, dumping of fish at sea by trawlers. Now, the Ghana Revenue Authority has expressed readiness to implement new revenue measures recently passed by Parliament. The government described the measures as key requirements to enable it secure an IMF program. Now, following its passage, President Akufo-Addo has appended his signature to give legal effect to them, and GRA says it's ready for implementation. Deputy Commissioner of the Customs Division of the GRA, Emmanuel Ohene, has been speaking to my colleague Blessed Soga on the sidelines of the Africa Continental Free Trader Area Business Summit in Cape Town, South Africa.
I believe that for us as a division of the GRA, we strive every day to ensure that we can provide the best services in the area of assurances for revenue collection and public health and safety. We have deployed a tool that is robust and dynamic, and so since 2020 we have sought to improve on what measures we can introduce in ensuring that our mandate for trade facilitation, for revenue generation and protection, and public health and safety is achieved. And so whenever there are new taxes that are introduced, we are poised to ensure that the mandate government has given us is achieved, and we strive to do that with a lot of improvements in the way we do business, especially in the area of digitalization. I would like to mention that we now have what you call the authorized economic operators, which is one of the pillars of the World Customs Organization and the World Trade Organization, where we intend to ensure that compliant traders or trusted traders have little or minimum customs control over their activities. And so once a trusted trader has the accreditation from Customs Division, you're able to import your goods into the country without any interferences from customs. And these are some of the initiatives we have sought to introduce to ensure that we can encourage compliant traders and discourage those who are non-compliant.
So your message to businesses that may be contemplating, avoiding, or is it evading the tax measures that are being newly, the recently introduced ones? What message do you have for those businesses?
We will say that in the wisdom of the government, these taxes were introduced to ensure that our country can attain the levels we all aspire to see. And for us as a division of the GRA, and as GRA, we will strive to carry out our mandate without fear or favor to ensure that the right things are done. We need to build a robust society, and societies are built on the taxes that we pay. And for us in GRA, we'll do every possible best to ensure that we collect the taxes according to the mandate given to us. Thank you.
But revenue leakage, finally, may be a challenge as well. Some say, well, it's not just about getting what you have, it's also about, consolidating and sustaining what you've raised over the years. And that's why I want to bring in the aspects of the revenue leakages. The fear is we have porous borders. the illegal trade along our borders is beginning to be a challenge for industry players. How are you working to deal with some of these loopholes that could have in the system?
Indeed, we have to admit that there are revenue leakages. But we also have very punitive sanctions to discourage recalcitrant traders. And when you are intercepted, you're slapped with a maximum penalty of 300%. Again, we have taken pains to deploy officers in spite of the challenges we have with manpower to sensitive places where we can intercept, smuggled cargo. And in today's world, what we are doing in customs is intelligence driven. And so to ensure that we don't deploy our resources haphazard anywhere, we base a lot of our activities on intelligence to ensure that we can maximize our successes under very constrained conditions. And so our activities are mostly intelligence driven, and we also rely on informants. And so some of these activities have turned out to be very positive in the area of blocking some of the loopholes and saving some of the leakages.
Now, still on the economy, the Pensioner Bondholders Forum says it will not be participating in the Finance Ministry's Technical Committee tasked to consider ways of enabling government to meet its commitment to investors. Now, a suggestion up for discussion is to have investors swap matured principals into treasury bills anytime government is unable to meet its repayment commitment. Bondholders have in the last few weeks been demanding repayment of matured bonds, with the Pensioner Bondholders Forum serving notice of picketing the Finance Ministry from April 28. Convener of the Individual Bondholders Forum, Senyor Hossi, says the committee's work is to find a lasting solution to the current situation.
One actually comes up with solutions on a mechanism to address the payment
the outstanding
of not just outstanding. I mean, government's challenge is simple. We have liquidity crisis. And that's what they're working with, trying to work around the pension funds thing to minimize the liquidity benefit. We want to pay you. They restated their commitment to their obligation, to pay. And we must all remember, we are not the only people who are owing government right now who are not being paid. The Eurobond commercial international bondholders are also not being paid. And for them, there's even no clarity at all. That uncertainty doesn't work for anybody. Our mandate is to create certainty for our members. So we agreed that we'll be in that meeting. We'll be in that technical committee and come up with a structure. Recommendations were requested, a payment structure that works for everybody. And I would want us to look at it more thoroughly. And that's the thinking of everybody, that we come up with a systemic strategy that almost cures the problem across the profile of all the debts. So we are not looking at just solving the problem with what's outstanding today. We're also looking at what's likely going to also face challenges going forward.
Now, the Pensioner Bondholders Forum is not interested in this arrangement. Dr. Edu Anani-Entry is its convener.
I was thinking that before this thing comes out, the two groups might have met and decided that this is what we can do based on the MOU that we have written. This is what we can do before the letter comes out. This has been my difficulty since I started talking about this thing, that the negotiation, if two people have decided that we will go on to do something, I believe that before a document comes out, the two must have met and decided that this is the way we can go. So that if it comes out, it's just that you still have to write a letter to invite them. But that will be just a mere invitation because they know what is coming and they will accept that. But if these things come out and people say no, then it means you did not negotiate, you didn't talk to the two groups having met to get what we call a consensus at them. And that is the challenge I have about how we have managed these things. And I thought by this time we should have learned our lessons and not do things like that again.
A study by the Department of Communication Studies of the University of Ghana has detailed an extensive abuse of journalists in Ghana's media industry. Now, the research in partnership with the Media Foundation for West Africa shows male journalists suffer more physical abuse than their female counterparts. The launch of the report is part of activities marking the 50th anniversary of the department. There is more in the following report by Joy News editor Fifi Kumsen.
The report captures many issues affecting Ghana's media and media freedoms, but key among the highlights was abuse of journalists. Politicians, police, and political fanatics were found to have been behind most of the abuses.
That masks the true picture.
Professor Audrey Gajipo presented highlights of the report.
So journalists feel insecure. They think that the environment they're working in is increasingly threatened, and so that there are violations to their safety, all kinds of violations.
In the study, less than 10% of journalists said they were, quote, definitely safe. Almost 25% said they were, quote, definitely not safe, while 64% said they were somewhat safe. Aside from the attacks, the report revealed many journalists are poorly paid, a situation that is fueling bribery and corruption.
Also, that many journalists work without contracts. This is a formal space, but many journalists work without contracts. There are no established structures for promotion, so it's not clear what will determine whether you'll be promoted or not. Again, it depends on the whim of the media manager, sometimes the media owner, and that sort of thing.
Also highlighted was what researchers described as political capture of the Ghanaian media. Ironically, the media under attack has also been captured by politicians. The researchers described as political capture of the Ghanaian media. Politicians own most of Ghana's broadcast media, a situation that threatens accountability of politicians and people in government.
Partisan actors in our media space, and therefore these people can control our public discourse.
The launch of the report is part of activities marking the 50th anniversary celebration of the Department of Communication Studies. NMC Chairman Mr. George Sapon launched the report with former Trade Minister Dr. Eko Spiogabra.
Officially launch the State of the Ghana Media Report 2023. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
The launch of the report brought together alumni, faculty members, and other dignitaries. Some of them shared thoughts about the report.
The most important part of the report for me is that in spite of all the challenges that media personnel face, they still believe that the atmosphere is sufficient for them to create, to report, to participate in media freedom.
This is research, this is science, this is data that is verifiable, this is data that is telling us the lived experiences of journalists and their managers and owners in the industry. So if we are truly committed to building and developing our media industry, we must take on these findings and begin to, come up with initiatives that will bridge the various gaps, especially with the welfare issues.
And this is a good opportunity for people in the media to actually engage the people in academia to try and understand why some of these problems came up and what we can do to solve the problem. So for me, my greatest interest is that this should serve as a tool that will bring together academia and industry to look at ways we can improve the media landscape.
The Ghanaian media needs help. That's at the heart of this report that the authors hope will inform changes in the media landscape in Ghana. Fifi Kumsin, Joy News.
Now, the appointment of Dr. Peter Apiahene and Hajia Salima Ahmed as members of Ghana's Electoral Commission have been called into questioning again by the opposition National Democratic Congress. This time, the party has petitioned the Council of State demanding it reconsiders its advice to the president on the appointment of the two as commissioners of the Electoral Commission to erase any perception of complicity in the appointment. Now, according to a statement signed by the national chairman of the NDC, Johnson Asiedun Ketia, the partisan appointment will erode confidence in the electoral body and undermine the conduct of free, fair, and transparent elections in Ghana. Head of our political desk here at Joy News, Evans Mensah, joins me in studio for more on this petition. Evans, 3 people were appointed to the EC by the president. The NDC is targeting 2. What are the details of this statement we have?
So, I mean, I think for me, a lot of the things that the NDC talks about in this petition, we knew before, which is that the one particular individual, the Dr. Piahene, in the past, before his appointment, was a known, let's say, sympathizer of the NPP. And he was very active in defending party and government policies. So when I took the document, the petition they filed, I was looking for, is there an additional information, there's something new that he had put in before the Council of State to trigger some form of action? And what they're asking for is pretty unprecedented. There's no precedent for it, which is that the Council of State should reconsider its advice to the president. And you find a bit of detail. So the NDC appears to have gone out there and dug a bit more into the background of Dr. Piahene in particular. And so they tell the Council of State in their petition that they also found that Dr. Piahene himself had confessed that he had played several roles for the NPP in the capacity of helping them manage elections and collation of election results. So they talk about the fact that he was, for example, a member of the 2022 Bono Regional Election Committee of the NPP. He was also the Bono Regional IT Director for Elections in 2020 for the NPP. He was the Bono Regional D-Day Coordinator for Election 2020 for the party as well. They tell the Council of State that he was a member of the National Research and Data Analysis Team for Election 2020 for the party, a Regional Collation Officer for the NPP, Internal Collation for Election 2020, and member of the Bono Regional Communications Team of the NPP as well. So they detail this. And I also found the claim by the NDC that he is also not just a sympathizer, but they claim he is a card-bearing member of the party. I asked Sami James, so what's the evidence to back it? Have you seen his party card? He says, well, they've tracked part of the communication surrounding his attempt to contest a particular seat in the region. In that document, they claim that had been stated, that sort of spelled out his profile, detailed it. It had been claimed in there that he was a card-bearing member, which is what has found its way into this petition. But they also attach a pen drive on which they've also put audio-visual evidence of his previous work for the party.
Okay, all right. So that's on Apiahene.
Yeah.
Did they add more on Hajia, who is also being targeted by the party?
On that one, they make allegations about his relationship with other politically exposed individuals, people that they claim are in her inner circle as relatives. They are his relatives. So their issue with her is that she may not be politically neutral by virtue of her relations with individuals. For example, the Maslog boss. You know, they claim that that individual who is a political appointee is a close relative of hers, and they believe that entire arrangement for somebody who is has such deep roots, considering the sort of blood relations that he has with people who had held positions in the party, that makes a bit exposed as well politically.
So you spoke to Sami James. Did he address some of the concerns about this particularly, that she's not actively a member, she may not actively be a member, but because of her relations?
I mean, for her, there's a question of what the perception is, considering the associations and relations that she has. People don't choose who they are married to or who their sisters and brothers are. So they will have to do a bit more to convince the Council of State. But Sami James makes the point that their request of the Council of State is simply that the Council of State reconsiders its advice. Now, it is a constitutional matter. the appointment of members of the commission is prescribed in the Constitution. The president has fulfilled that because he went to the Council of State to seek advice and then announce the appointment. So the Council of State, he says, that's the Sami Jimfi's point, can go back to the president and says, having now been exposed to this fresh evidence, we think or now believe that the advice we gave you, which because the person had been confirmed, it's implied that they endorsed the president's suggestion to them. We believe that it's wrong, and so we advise you to reconsider. But even that, constitutionally, there's no constitutional prescription for undoing what has already been done, unless you trigger the laid down constitutional processes for it. And it says, well, it is for moral suasion. So, but if the Council of State does that, then at least it's pressure on the president, and it sort of then leaves room for more pressure on the system and even on the EC to be neutral going forward, because even the Council of State is in on it. And then he says, if the Council of State doesn't do this, what they are now planning to do is street protests. They're going to hit the streets to protest against these two appointments.
Now, you also tried to engage some other civil society organizations. What did they tell you?
I mean, so, when this first emerged, Kojo, the Coalition of Domestic Election Observers, they held a press conference and also asked for the resignation of particularly Dr. Apiahene. So I checked back with them. It's been a few weeks since this happened. Have they had any movement based from that position that he expressed earlier, the call that he made? Nothing has moved, so which means that the status quo remains. The individuals have been confirmed and they are firmly in their place in the Electoral Commission. No intention to resign. But the suggestion that Mr. Brampa, who works with the CDD, and also Kojo made is going forward in an attempt to review the Constitution, you have to write it in black and white in the Constitution. In changing the whole architecture surrounding the appointment of Electoral Commission members and chairpersons, now it's not a disqualifying characteristic or a criteria, but subsequently we should consider writing it to say if you are overtly, blatantly partisan, that should disqualify you from holding an office at the EC, because the EC itself is supposed to be independent, and that should reflect in the individuals who serve on it.
All right. Grateful to you, Evans Mensah, for that work. So Evans is the head of political desk here at Joy News. Now, the National Labour Commission has directed the University of Cape Coast branch of Senior Staff Association of the Universities of Ghana to call off its strike and return to their post to ensure that there's that break that they created is corrected. Now, at a meeting held on Wednesday, the Commission argued on the basis of Section 161 of the Labour Act that stipulates that disputing parties cannot negotiate on issues under arbitration while on strike. Now, in furtherance of that, the Commission directed that the senior staff called off its strike while the management of UCC was equally directed to engage the aggrieved workers to resolve all issues raised and report back to the Commission on Wednesday, 26th April 2023. We're joined via Zoom by the chairman of the Senior Staff Association, UCC chapter, Sandy Kumi Sinatra, and the Director of Public Affairs of the University of Cape Coast, Major Retired Kofi Barbington. For more on this, let me start with you, Sandy. So you've been directed by the Labour Commission to return. What's your response to that? Kindly unmute so we can follow what you're telling us, Sandy. Okay. Sandy, we still cannot hear you because you're still muted. If you can unmute so we can follow what you're telling us.
Kojo, can you hear me?
I can hear you now, yes.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity to speak on the issue. Yes, this morning we were at the National Labour Commission, that's the Senior Staff Association in Universities of Ghana, University of Cape Coast local branch, as well as some national executives of the association and the university management, as you have rightly said. Yeah, so the National Labour Commission summoned us to appear, and the two parties did oblige. Yeah, so as you said when we went, the directive that came from NLC was that, one, our employer, which is the university or the management of the university, has failed to comply by their area directive by ensuring that they engage us. However, they are of the opinion that once they failed in doing that, we should have written and make formal complaints to the commission before we will take any further action, which we did. But in the letter, it was stated that we are reporting to them that the management has not engaged us, and subsequently we will declare a strike on it. Of course, they also wrote in response to that. However, we declared a strike before we received the letter from NLC. But in the wisdom of NLC, yes, whether we had declared a strike or not, it shouldn't have prevented us from stay action as they indicated in the sermons. So they think there's still more room for the two parties to negotiate, because on the part of management, they were claiming that though we sent them letters to them, the letters were not formally or directly to them to respond to the letters. We sent to NLC, and we, as part of the distribution, we distributed some to them, and for that reason, they couldn't have responsive. That is what brought the directive at NLC. However, we are yet to receive the directive, though at the NLC something was discussed, but officially that discussion is yet to be communicated to the association. And when we also received that directive, the decision to say we have suspended or call off the strike does not only rest in the bosom of me, the chairman, or the national chairman. It should be a NEC decision. So when we receive the directive, NEC will meet, and whatever will come out of it, we'll share with NLC and the world at large.
So is it right to then assume that you're not calling off the strike until you receive that particular directive from the NLC?
As we speak, we have not called off the strike, because as I indicated earlier, we had a discussion today at the commission. The commission made a submission, and furtherance to that, they said they are going to bring their decisions or their directive to us in writing. So as we are here, we are waiting for that directives in writing. And when it comes, the necessary actions will be taken and we report back to the commission.
But Sandeep, a letter that I have in my, possession, on 16th May 2022, the university management wrote to you and replying to your intention to embark on a strike about this particular appointment, detailing all that the university, considers in terms of promoting people. So with all that, it's sort to say that the university management tried to get you out of that. Why did you still embark on a strike when the management really painted out to you what they do to promote your members?
Yes, of course, as you have indicated, that letter is true. However, when we made the submission on our concerns, we met with management, and out of that meeting, this letter was issued. However, we made it aware to management that we are not satisfied with the decision. And that is what necessitated NLC to write to management to further engage us, which that engagement never happened.
Okay. All right, Sandy, I'm grateful to you. We'll be keeping an eye on how this particular develops. So that's Sandy Komisinatua. He's chairman of the Senior Staff Association, Universities of Ghana, UCC branch. We'll take a quick break here on Joy News Prime. We'll be back with more stories. Stay with us. Welcome back from the break. Now, the Fisheries and Aquaculture Development Ministry has begun a pilot of the electronic monitoring system in industrial vessels operating in Ghana's exclusive economic zone. Now, the electronic monitoring system is a tool used to collect fishing data, including the quantity of fish caught, fishing effort, and bycatch by the installation of cameras on board fishing vessels. Speaking at a news conference ahead of the installation process, Fisheries Minister Mavis Kumsin indicated that the move is part of government's plan to ensure transparency and help sanitize Ghana's fisheries space. There is more in this report.
The industrial sector contributes significantly to the fish production in Ghana. It consists of the tuna and the trawl sector. Despite the contributions, the sector has challenges in illegal, unregulated and unreported fishing, harvesting of juvenile fish, excessive bycatch and use of unapproved nets. As a result, some measures have been put in place to help address the challenges. They include the implementation of the ministerial directive on trawl gear, application of vessel monitoring system, and a host of others to collect other scientific and compliance information. Addressing a news conference at Tema to begin the pilot process, Fisheries and Aquaculture Development Minister Mavis Hawakumsin says the move is to pave way for the installation of the systems on all industrial fishing vessels that operate in Ghana's exclusive economic zone.
The IUU fishing activities has brought negative international pressure on Ghana, resulting in a second yellow card being issued by the European Union. Currently, MOFAD and Fisheries Commission implementing a vessel monitoring system and automatic identification system as a means of monitoring fishing activities of vessels at sea. However, these measures are inadequate in getting real-time evidence of activities on board fishing vessels at sea. The deployment of EMS on industrial trawlers has therefore come at the appropriate time. EMS uses onboard video cameras, global positioning system, and sensors to automatically track and verify fishing activities on board fishing vessels.
Mavis Hawakumsin details how helpful the electronic monitoring system would be for the fishing industry.
The cameras of EMS record videos 24 hours a day and will record, among others, dumping of fish at sea by trawlers. It is our expectation that the EMS will complement existing measures being implemented by the ministry, such as the ministerial directives on trawl gear. Application of VMS, NAIS, port inspection, and the observer program. It will also improve transparency and provide better oversight for Ghana to discharge her flag state's responsibility.
The leadership of the industrial trawlers commended the ministry for helping to fight piracy using the electronic monitoring system.
It is the expectation of JITA that since most of the vessel owners are not at sea to know what happens on board the vessels during fishing, the EMS, which is intended to collect video images and VMS data, will help the owners to know the total catch landed by vessels, species landed, conduct of seafarers on board the vessels, as well as track the movement of the vessels. Since the initiative is a pilot program, JITA want to appeal to MOFAD FC to collaborate and cooperate well with members who are voluntarily giving their vessels for the piloting exercise. We further urge MOFAD to open and be transparent in information sharing.
A memorandum of understanding was signed by the various parties to cement the process. Richard Kwejinyako, Joy News, Accra.
Now, President Akufo-Addo says government is doing everything within its power to bridge the housing deficit in the country. Now, speaking during the commissioning of 312 housing units for the Ghana Police Service, the president observed that Ghana's land, especially those in the urban areas, must be put to optimal use. This project forms part of government's Aviation City Development Project, which aims at turning the area around the airport into a commercial hub.
It is estimated that Ghana's urban population will reach 72% by 2035. This represents a unique challenge as well as an opportunity to develop innovative solutions to the growing demand for housing, infrastructure, and public services in our major cities. To address this challenge, government has been working tirelessly to implement a comprehensive urban development strategy, which includes the construction of affordable housing units, the expansion of transportation networks, and the upgrading of public facilities, such as schools, hospitals, and police stations. We've made considerable strides in this respect. Since 2017, we've launched several initiatives aimed at addressing Ghana's housing deficit, which currently stands at some 2 million units. Despite these measures, rapid urbanization continues to put immense pressure on our land resources. This has led to the degradation of some of our prime lands, particularly in urban areas.
Now, Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Samuel Abu-Jinapong, has been detailing the scope of the ambitious project which government hopes will turn around Ghana's urban spaces.
This scheme is being implemented in areas such as Kumasi Sector 18, which comprises of Ridge, Danyame, and Inshiasu residential areas, Old Tamale Airport, Ridge Sectors 1, 2, and 3 residential areas in Cape Coast, as well as the Aviation City here in Accra. The Aviation City area encompasses land adjacent Airport City and stretches from Stanbic Heights through the Driver and Vehicle Licensing Authority, DVLA, to the Ministry of Defense. Currently, the land hosts a number of installations for the Ghana Police Service, including a barracks with primary and junior high schools, mobile force quarters, rapid deployment force, national protection unit, fuel depot, and workshop. Other occupants in the area include the Band Trooping Army of the Ghana Armed Forces, the West African Examination Council, the Driver and Vehicle Licensing Authority, Ghana Airport Company Limited, and the Ghana Meteorological Agency. The Aviation City redevelopment requires that all these agencies are relocated to free up the land for redevelopment. This has led to the construction of this barracks for the Ghana Police Service through a public-private partnership to relocate the personnel of the Ghana Police Service in the Aviation City enclave to this barracks. It is our hope that this event will kickstart the smooth relocation of all these agencies for the redevelopment to commence. We will continue to work with all stakeholders to deliver a robust and functioning land administration that is anchored on transparency and integrity and improve our urban cities through the Urban Redevelopment Scheme. Ours is to intelligently unleash our lands and natural resources in contributing significantly to the transformative program of President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo in constructing here in our country a prosperous Ghana beyond.
Now, according to Interior Minister Ambrose Derry, this is yet another fundamental political promise kept by President Akufo-Addo's government.
We are yet witnessing another landmark achievement by His Excellency the President. Excellency the President, before the election in 2016, the manifesto, he did make a number of proposals for security. Number one, that we should work to make each and every person in Ghana feel safe. And as part of the package, it was to empower security agencies. First of all, make sure that personnel are recruited and well-trained, and that they are respecters of the rule of law, equality before the law. There is no special law for one group and the other. In 2018, you appeared before Parliament, and you then made an allocation of an extra 800 million to start the transformation agenda of the police. We have come a long way. Mr. President, I can assure you on behalf of the police that they have seen changes, backlog of promotions dealt with, training now more professional, equipment recently we've escalated it to 3 helicopters for them. But Mr. President, you also said that you were going to undertake barracks regeneration. Mr. President, contrary to what some opponents might want to say, you have kept all your promises and you have delivered. And today, we are seeing a piece of development that the police have never seen before.
Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Ekuffo-Dampare, is excited about the new development, but once more.
As long as I remain Inspector General of Police, that this facility, its maintenance, we will never make it your headache. Indeed, during the opportunity you give to me to be the Inspector General of Police, my colleagues and I vowed that we will make our institution the best in the country and a reference point for Africa and beyond. And maintaining our facilities and bringing them to standard is one of the ingredients towards that. And a sign of it, as I have been alluded to, is the signs you are seeing at our headquarters. And we'll bring that same thinking and commitment of maintenance to this facility and all other police. The fourth, Mr. President, is also to assure you that as Oliver Twist, we will always ask for more, because there are so many other places that deserve a facility like this, so as to help myself and my colleagues to be able to continue on to prosecute the agenda of ensuring that there is peace, security, law, and order in this country. And we therefore want to plead with you to look beyond this and look at the case of Accra Central, the case of Kumasi Central, the case of Tamale, the case of Tema, and put all this together so that as you have pampered us over the years, we'll continue to be pampered, but guided and principled and be motivated to also do more in terms of ensuring that there is peace and security in this country.
Yes, we're watching Joy News Prime. We'll take a break. We'll bring you showbiz afterwards. Welcome back from the break. Time for us to bring you showbiz. And Becky Beggs is here with the details. Becky, how are you doing?
I'm fantastic. The news that everyone is talking about is the case between Obrafour and Drake and now Manche. So, legendary Ghanaian rapper Obrafour is suing popular Canadian rapper Drake for sampling his 2003 remix of Oyehene on his song Calling My Name off the Honestly Nevermind album. In the documents presented to a court in New York, Obrafour stated that Drake infringed on his copyright when he sampled his song without permission. The court defendants released the infringing work on June 17, 2022, despite the fact that an agent of one or more defendants had previously contacted Obrafour seeking to obtain Obrafour's permission for the use of the copyrighted work in the infringing work. Quote, Obrafour never granted defendant permission to use the copyrighted work, and the infringing work was released mere days later. Part of the documents read that the Ghanaian rapper indicated that Drake and the other defendants, following the release of Calling My Name, has greatly benefited from his work. This evening, we woke up to a tweet from the founder of Chalewate Arts Festival, Manche Aikwe. So he has called out legendary hip live artist Obrafour for single-handedly filing a copyright infringement lawsuit against Drake on a project he has an interest in without his notice. So Manche, who is known to have voiced the Killer Cat, the sample which is the subject of the copyright infringement in the Obrafour versus Drake lawsuit, in a series of tweets registered his disappointment at the fellow Ghanaian creator for filing the suit without his notice. Before directing his displeasure at Obrafour, Manche advised Drake and his attorneys to consult his lawyers regarding claims for compensation for the use of the intellectual property. So it's still developing. This is a developing story. We haven't gotten to the end or to the bottom of the whole. I'm suing you. You're not supposed to sue somebody. And so, Brace, we will bring you more details on this particular story in subsequent bulletins. So stay with Joy News channel. We will be bringing you all that you need. But still talking about, musical craft or talent. Nasi is saying that if you have the talent, you need to be paid for the talent. You don't, when I have to come and sing for you, try as much as possible to, give me something small.
Okay, almost all the Ghanaians we are like church people. Okay. And some of the things that were preached to us from the beginning is it was given to you for free. So you to give it for free. So anytime a musician is trying to make money from the music, the corporate, the people, the society kind of, why? Why somebody will just come and sing for 15 minutes and the person needs to be paid 50,000 or 100,000? Why? You see, so that has kind of brought us this level where people don't really kind of appreciating talent. But all the same, it now is better than before. Now is better than before. So I think it will take time. Maybe some of us, we may not benefit fully, but the next maybe 10, 20 years, those people, enjoy it more. So, and definitely somebody should take the blow for somebody to,
What's in Bazi, Baba Podama, you're a few lover. Go downtown here, go come with more there, Kanina. Now, by the way, for sure.
So, well, on that note, obviously, so can I do the honor?
Yeah, you can.
All right, sure. Thank you so much, Brace. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here on Joy News Prime. Please join us
let me do this
tomorrow.
Please. But before we go, remember to brush your teeth before you go to bed this evening.
Yeah.
And tomorrow morning, when you wake up from bed with either Pepsodent Cavity Fighter, Pepsodent Charcoal, Pepsodent Herbal, or Pepsodent Triple Protection, because, like we say with Pepsodent, every smile matters. All right?
So, yeah.